you haven't yet met me, my name is Tarmila Rajasingham, and this is Friday Connect. I co-host this event with Kyle Sutton, who's going to be coming in very shortly, and Jacob Sharman. We do this every single week, free training, 12 o'clock Eastern time. And the reason why this is so important is because we bring in all sorts of guests and training and topics that are so good for your business, and that isn't just focused on just marketing your lead gen. It's to do with your full business and your full, really, as a realtor, and what everything you could be doing and anything. So that's why we're doing today flipping 101, and there's many ways that this can help you. Not only you can become a real estate investor yourself and flip properties, but you're going to learn strategies and secrets to working with potential investors in the future. So this is going to be a really great topic, and if you have any questions, make sure you keep it to the very end and keep your mic on mute. We have a special guest for you today, and I do want, Jacob, if you can, in the chat box, can you put our website? We finally launched this amazing website created by Jacob, really capturing every single topics that are coming up in the future. So connect with us there. And also, we a couple of months ago launched a YouTube channel just from hearing a lot of people coming to these trainings, letting us know that they need to be recorded and shared. So we started to do them, and you can access them, subscribe, go watch them. There's some really good videos on there, and we even had Connor back many times before with so many different topics. I recommend you go watch them. So today I'll introduce our guest so that he can take it on. Thank you, Connor Steinbrook, for being here. He's one of our team partners and business partners. He's based in Dallas, Texas, and today he's going to be talking to you about flipping properties 101. But if you can dive a little bit deeper, and if there's something that you want to really have him really dissect, because he's one of the top real estate investors in the US, and he has actually one of the top channels in the US called US Investor Army, which I'm going to put it in the chat so that you can check it out. And he's also an investor, an entrepreneur, and he's also a top influencer at our brokerage EXP Realty, and co-founded one of the largest and international organization with over 2,000 agents and counting worldwide. So he's super impressive, one of the smartest people I've ever met, hands down, and such an honor to have you here, Connor. So thank you, and I'm going to pass it on to you. Go ahead.
You sure you want to pass it on? You just don't want to keep going for another 10 minutes? That sounds pretty good.
I probably could, just talking about you, but I'm going to give it to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you. Thank you for the nice intro. Let me share my screen here and we will get going, guys. And thank you for your time, everybody. Hope all is well. Let's see if I can get this.
Oh, Jacob, you might, yeah. Can you enable Connor to share his screen? Thank you.
Yeah, it's right there in the middle. There you go. Okay. Let me get this. All right, cool. Yeah, thank you guys for your time. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to kind of break down kind of like the four main profit centers where you should think about your business as you start to go into building a house flipping business. If you've ever done this before, or if this is brand new to you, it's going to be good to be a recap. If you've been doing this for a little bit, but if this brand new, this should be interesting for you. I'm going to talk about where you can increase your income and also where you can decrease your income. And, I used to flip, anywhere from 8 to 12 houses at a time on rotation, meaning some are coming into the pipeline, some are in the middle of construction, some are exiting the pipeline. And so I'm going to kind of give you my take after doing a lot of transactions on not just flipping to sell, but flipping to keep and other creative strategies on the exit side. And hopefully this helps. Now, if you guys want to follow me and look into me, Tharmel mentioned my YouTube channel, Investor Army. I did launch a new channel, my personal name down at the bottom, and then just my name on Instagram. But let's take a look at these guys real quick. These are going to be the 4 buckets right here. So you have marketing and lead generation. Then you're going to have the financing of the property. And then you're going to obviously have the construction side, the supply side, and working with contractors. And then you have the exit. What are you going to do with the property? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to keep it? What are you going to do with it? So these are kind of the 4 big buckets of areas where I think your skill sets can be increased or focused on. And as you get better in any areas of this, your income's going to go up, and your long-term will, at least. And then on individual transactions, you can see a big jump as well. Okay. So the first thing is, let's look at like marketing and lead generation. This is a big deal, guys. And so I'm going to go through just a couple lines here with you and give you what these mean here. So the first thing is, when it comes to lead generation, you can either do it on or off market. So off market would be something that's not a public source, meaning not like the MLS, which is multiple listing service that all publicly sold properties through a real estate agent are hosted on the MLS. Other public resources are like auction sites, like you have HUD Home sites and auction.com and things like that, or just going on looking for sale by owner sites, for salebyowner.com and things like that. When you are in a competitive industry and everybody can see the information, doesn't mean you can't get a deal going through public sources. It just means you have more competition to do so. So It's an easier path because it takes time a lot of times, because you're searching the internet, you're not investing money to do this. It's more of a time strategy, but you will have way less opportunities and you will have to spend a lot more time doing this as compared to generating leads through paid marketing, going direct to the seller, like direct mail, neighborhood canvassing, social media marketing, paid ads, and things like that. So 98% plus of the transactions I've ever done were direct to the seller, meaning off market. And this gives you a lot more flexibility to negotiate with them. When it's a MLS offer, what do you think they have? They have a licensed real estate agent that can advise them and help them run numbers, right? So when it's an off-market property, they're selling on their own, and they may not have as good of an understanding of what price repairs are and things like that. And plus, they're also willing, a lot more times they're willing to work with you and maybe even create an opportunity to sell the property to you on like owner financing and things like that. So you open up more creative opportunities to go into negotiations with the homeowner by doing it off market. Okay. The second one in there, let's take a look at time or money. This is where you're going to think about your business on how you're going to grow your business. You can do this with time strategies, meaning you can go on for sale by owner sites and call for sale by owners all day, or you can do this with money strategies, meaning you can run a big direct mail campaign. You can put a paid ad strategy out there on the internet, and when they click on the videos, have a retargeting campaign follow them around. So you need to look at your individual business, decide where you're at in your business. Do you have more time than money? Do you have more money than time? Do you have both, or do you have neither? And I started out using time strategies in the beginning of my business, failed horribly because I didn't know what I was doing. And I ran out of money. And what happened was I had no money, but I had time. And I was teaching myself how to build websites and build out WordPress websites, watching free YouTube videos. And because of social media, you don't need money to really build a business now. You need to take your time to build these skill sets on the internet, because I was building private YouTube channels, link them to my websites. And then as Google had acquired YouTube, I knew this was going to impact the algorithm. And I rose my websites up to page one. For house acquisition, I generated a ton of leads, and that's how I got out of debt. So think about, even if you don't have money, guys, you don't need it. Be creative. There's many ways to use technology and social media and things like that, using mostly time and very low amounts of money to generate leads. Now, if you have money and you're doing something that's bringing a return on the dollar, meaning you're doing a marketing campaign that's bringing multiple dollars back for the dollar spend, then it's scalable, meaning you just rip the credit card and let it go, if that makes sense. So it's going to be a lot more scalable using money strategies than time strategies. But time strategies are usually where a lot of people have to start out because they're limited on money, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to help you guys at different stages of your career, because it's hard to know who all's on the call. Now, when it comes to marketing, you have a shotgun versus rifle approach, okay? Shotgun approach would be, I'm going to go down to the county and pull a list for absentee owners or a list of tax delinquent properties and things like that. And I'm going to market to a wide list. And let's say you're in a big metroplex area. You may be generating leads from an hour west, an hour east, hour north, hour south, and everything in between. Whereas a rifle approach is a targeted strategy. You're going to say, this neighborhood over here, I've analyzed it numerous times. I know, because the relationship between price points, what I can rent it for, what the county taxes are, and what I can get a loan on right now, that this is a high cash flow kind of area in this northeast pocket right here, as compared to I could buy a 200K house on the left side of the market and maybe cash flow $400 a month, whereas over here I can maybe cash flow $600 a month. And then you're going to identify a small area, 500 to 2,000 houses, and you're going to constantly farm that area, and you're going to go directly after that area. So you're going to hit them from multiple angles. You're going to use door knocking, neighborhood canvassing. You're going to direct mail them. You're going to put, if you can, outdoor advertising in proximity into the, let's say there's like a billboard opportunity for you around the corner, things like that. You want to target just this area, if that makes sense. So the difference between a wide approach and a target approach. And then proactive marketing versus reactive marketing. This is going to be, proactive marketing is, I'm going to go on like social media and look at, someone to reach out to, and I'm going to reach out to them proactively. Whereas reactive marketing is, I'm not deciding who to reach out to. They're deciding to reach out to me because I put a video on the internet and they're reacting to it coming to me. You want to move to reactive marketing strategies the most of your business, because they're more time leverage. Let's say you put a billboard out, once it's up, one-time cost, but it's generating leads 24/7. Say you've put videos on the internet, one-time cost of time and money, but it's generating leads over and over. Where a lot of proactive strategies are like, hey, I came across you on for sale by owner site, and I proactively called you on a phone call. It's a one-to-one time unit relationship. So what I see is businesses that use reactive marketing, things that they can get a multiplier effect of time and dollars and attention, they're going to grow a lot faster. Then right there is one time versus time to timing marketing. And this is where I've made a big mistake, everyone on here. I was doing one-time marketing, and you hear this all the time, drip marketing. You have to market to the same homeowners multiple times. But what was happening to me was I'd send a big postcard campaign out for a couple grand, and I didn't really have the money at the time, and I get no phone calls or just a couple. And that was a one-time marketing touch. And when everybody's telling me market over and over and over to those same leads, do you think you have a lot of confidence to send $2,000 out when you don't have it to that same list that you just didn't get a deal from? But I didn't understand timing, because what's happening is the average homeowner, statistics say anywhere from 7 years, maybe 5 years, depending on studies, that they sell their house. So if you mail a postcard once, which is what a lot of people do, they get a big list and they mail everybody one time. You have to time the timing, meaning they have to be ready at that moment, right? But if they're not ready to sell right then, they're going to take that postcard and throw it away. So what we're trying to do, instead of marketing to big lists once, we're trying to make sure that if, let's say, they're going to sell the house in 12 months from now, and we send a postcard once now, and then another one in 90 days, and another one in 90 days, and another one in 90 days, eventually they get conditioned to our brand and they're familiar with us. And then we're catching up to the timing. So at some point, homeowners in that neighborhood, if we stay consistent marketing, we're building brand recognition. We're the only ones being consistent because other people are not doing this, that when the timing catches up, you're the one they think of, if that makes sense. And then if you do a good job, under promise, over deliver, they'll tell their neighbors and everybody else. And then you become the word of mouth investor or realtor in that neighborhood. And then you want to think about type of properties you want to go after. Obviously, if you're flipping houses for sale, you want to do a little bit higher price point markets. But if you're flipping to keep, you want to kind of stay in that sub 250K price point. So you need to think about what you want to do as far as your business goes, because we're not just flipping houses to sell them, right? You may be flipping them to keep. And then you may be doing partial rehabs and things like that. And also the higher price point market is more risky, and you have to be a lot better with your construction abilities because you can really cause problems. And the credibility marketing is being on camera, being on stage, being on YouTube, having, book licensing, anything that can create credibility for you, that people that see you in the marketplace as someone credible. It's going to increase the deals you're going to get. Now, I'm going to run through these really quick for you guys. Financing your next flip. We have traditional hard money lenders. These are professional lenders. You can find them on Google. You can find them at the local REI clubs. They're going to charge you a combination of points up front and points on the back end. So you'll hear something like 2 and 12. That means they're charging you 2 points up front and then 12 points per annum or through the year for the annual year. Now, they're going to be more expensive, but they're lending most of them, probably most all of them, on the asset. So just because you may not have financeability, meaning you don't have good credit and a good financial history, the hard money lenders are going to be what's called an asset-based lender, not a FICO-based lender. And they're going to lend off the equity position in the house, not off your credit. So just because you guys don't have good credit, don't think they won't lend to you. Now, private money lender, but hard money lender, guys, is a professional lender. They're out there working with everybody. Where a private money lender is someone you're going to have to kind of run down and find in the marketplace. These are going to be people that are not charging points up front. They're not holding back your money for rehab draws. They're not charge you inspection fees. This would be like your mother, your brother, your friend, a local business owner. And the way you're going to get your private lenders is to not raise money in real estate. So don't go to like realtor events and real estate clubs and things like that. You want to go to self-directed IRA events, like right there. You want to go to business networking events to find other successful entrepreneurs that are not in real estate, meaning they own gyms, they own restaurants and things like that. Because real estate professionals like myself, people want me to lend money to them all the time. I'm like, I can lend it on my own deals. I can put it into my own business, if that makes sense. But if they're a doctor or an attorney, they understand real estate, but they don't want to do it. They need you to do it for them. Self-directed IRAs, this is a great way because people's money's tied up. There's prohibited transactions. They can't lend it to themselves. They can't lend it to their own entity. They can't lend it to their parents. They can't lend it to their grandparents or down the vertical line, but they can lend it to you. So you can help people self-direct their IRA. JV equity partnerships, if they won't lend the money to you for a percentage, they may for a percentage of the equity in the deal. Sometimes it's a bigger part, inspires them to give more up. Just traditional bank financing, obviously going to the bank, getting a loan. A HELOC is using, say you have properties that are free and clear, you can take a home equity line of credit and borrow money as a credit line off the equity position of houses that you already have. And that's a lot better option than refinancing to pull money out, because when you refinance, you set the loan clock again and you have extra fees and you're paying for that money 24/7. Whereas if you pull a HELOC off your property, it's just like a credit card. If you have a credit card with a 10K cash balance right now, but you're not spending any money on it, do you have to pay interest on it? So you're only paying interest on a credit line when the money's in play. But if you have an actual interest only, if you have an amortizing loan on there, it's taken every month, if that makes sense. Business credit lines, I've got videos on that, guys, on my YouTube channel, Investor Army, breaking that down detail. Just type Investor Army business credit lines. I'll give you a number of really important things to look at there. We don't have time today, but you can use business credit lines for second position, finishing projects and things like that. Then credit cards, seller financing, getting the homeowner to sell the property to you, and then cash, yours or someone else's. I got 2 more sections to start on. Give me an idea of how much time I have. I don't want to go over.
Yeah, you can go for another 15 minutes.
Okay, cool. All right, now let's go into like the third section here. So what we've gone over is 2 of the 4 sections. So think about this. You're competing against other investors in the marketplace. Now, what you can offer has a big impact on how many deals you're going to get. So if Tharmela can offer $100,000 for a house and Jacob can only offer 105, what do you think? I think you're getting at one's going to get it over the other one's the better offer. So when we're looking at marketing, if Tharmela can drop her cost of acquisition from $7,000 per deal to $5,000 per deal down to $3,000 per deal, she can now get more aggressive on the offers, if that makes sense. So you can increase your profit centers by decreasing the marketing dollars to generate a deal. When it comes to what we're just talking about with financing, let's say Tharmela can raise money at 8% versus 12% on a $100K loan. That's a difference of $4,000 on, so if it's a $300K loan, that's a difference of $12,000 per year, right? So if you're saving money on the money that you can raise, you can get more aggressive and offer lower and outbid other investors, but make the same profit. So these are all very important to keep into consideration. Now, the third way you can save money is construction. You can do this with 2 kind of big parts of the construction side, labor and materials. So labor, obviously we're going to talk mostly about right here, but supplies. So how are you going to get your supplies? How are you going to do this? Where are you going to get them from? Are you going to do it in bulk? Are you waiting for discounts? Are you going to, do things like, I'll give you some ideas here in a second. Let's just kind of go through this. So the first thing is remodeling versus rehabbing. This is a big difference. And what you guys watch on TV, these HGTV flipping shows, I want you guys to understand these are reality TV shows. The real world of doing business is nothing like this. You would think that flipping houses is interior designing, is really what these TV shows make you think, that like the profit centers come from how you make the property look. This has nothing really to do with it, because that's actually kind of the easiest part, right? So the big problem I have with these flipping shows is they always show remodeling. This is not what we really do in the real world. Remodeling was, I'm tearing out walls, I'm restructuring the house, and I'm doing this. Now, this does make sense in certain types of properties, like weird layout properties. Let's say there's a 4-bedroom, 1 bath, or let's say you have a weird layout where everybody has to walk through the middle of the master bedroom to get to the 1 bathroom or something like that. Then it makes sense. But we don't want to remodel the house if we don't have to, meaning moving walls, because the expense of doing this and slowing it down and the risk of having issues with the city and permitting problems and all this type of stuff increases. What rehabbing is we're just going in and rehabbing the property, doing a facelift, right? We're going to go in, put new cabinets in there, even re-drywall the property, put a new roof on the property. We're not moving things around, restructuring things, adding additions and things like that. Now, you can add additions and you can do all that. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying wait till you've done a number of transactions before you get into the remodeling side. Different types of contractors. So you're going to have successful contracting teams. These are professional companies. We call make-ready teams in our market. These are going to be 4 to 6 person teams that are used to working like a team together, like a basketball team, and they go in and they knock properties out quickly. But you're either going to have speed, quality, or cost when it comes to contractors. You're never going to get all 3. So they're going to be expensive, but they're going to get it done quickly. And you can basically just say, here's the keys. Tell me when I get my house back once you give me the materials. That's where I started getting towards the end of my career. That's the best option, but most people don't go with that option because they look at the price tag. They may say $40,000 to do all the work. And then you got all these other people saying, I'll do it for 25. Well, they're going to do it for 25 because they're going to cost you $50,000 in extra work on the property. They're going to steal from you. They're going to take your paint sprayers and power washers and things like that. So I would not hire contractors off of price, guys. I'd hire them off of referrals or off of quality. You can go into other people's properties. We call it dumpster diving. See another rehab going on, just walk by and take a look, walk on up there. Referrals from other investors and things like that. Then you have kind of like the GCs that are not like a real business. They're not going to be out there like marketing and having these make-ready teams. They're kind of just been in the business for a while. They can do a lot of the work on their own, but they're going to kind of have a bunch of subcontractors that they're going to hire out. And then you can just do it the way where you're going to just hire subcontractors yourself, meaning you're going to contact the plumber, you're going to contact the carpet people, you're going to contact the people that put in the windows, and you handle it on your own. And then you'll have day-to-day workers. These are going to be people that are important. They're not going to be like the main workers on your jobs. You're not giving them a full project, but what they do is they come in and, let's say I need John to run over to 123 Main Street and patch a couple drywall cracks because it's settled in the foundation settling after we did it or something like that. Or they need to go, hang a door, a couple things. You need a couple like handymen around, if that makes sense. So you need your teams, some one-off handymen for spot jobs that go off. And then do you want to GC it yourself or do you want to have someone GC it? How to pay contractors. You never pay them the full amount up front because you'll watch your money disappear. You always have a contract in place. And I would try to create a small draw and create a payment schedule that they have to stay on, because what happens is contractors are going to get ahead of it. Let's say that you agreed to pay them $2,000 a week for 6 weeks, which would be what? That'd be $8,000, $12,000. Now, let's say you're halfway through that, 6,000 in, you're paying them, and they're only 10% way through the project. They're going to push you and be like, well, we agreed for $2,000 per week. You want to make an agreement based off performance, meaning like we need metrics. Like it's not just like I'm paying you because you're showing up. It's like because what's going to happen is week 6 is going to come. You've paid out all 12,000 and you've had a 50% done project, and it's going to create a massive headache. So we pay as you go, and you want to create a mentality with them that they understand that. And then you want to also let them know that that they need to give you their best offer up front, that you don't do what's called change orders. This is very important, guys. Let's say Jacob's a contractor and says he'll do it for 20 grand. And then I told Darmela that I already was going to do it for 20 grand. She's like, well, he's never going to work with me if I don't do it cheaper. So she may say like 16 grand. But what she's trying to do is she's going to get her foot in the door. I'm going to get in for 16 grand. And then she's going to do what's called a change order later in the project. Once she's got into the project and I can't get rid of her. Oh, by the way, we need to do this, 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 and this. This wasn't part of the original agreement. Now it's going to be $6,000 more, which would be more than the original 20 now, if that makes sense. But they're never going to tell you that. So what I tell people is this. I tell contractors, I don't deal with change orders. Give me the best offer that you have, because if we get into the project and it does happen to we have to do more work, I'm giving it to a different contractor, not you. So what I'm doing is I'm protecting myself that they're playing games so that they can't get that future work anyways. So now they have to give their best offer, because I'm saying no matter what, you don't play around with me. You guys tell this pissed me off because I've dealt with these types of things too many times, right? And this is how I figured out how to stop it. And if you listen to that, guys, that's very important. What I just taught you guys, I could save you tens, if not hundreds of $1,000s in negotiating if you do a lot of deals. Let's see, materials and supplies. I get most everything at Lowe's and Home Depot. And the reason why is they're everywhere. And I spent a big part of my career going to try to find deals, going to like little hole in the wall spots, certain places like storage units that you could like big, like places that had massive storage type of stuff. But what I realized is because of time relationship to the dollar savings with Home Depot and Lowe's right there. Yes, they're a little bit more expensive, but for the convenience of it, like 90% of my stuff comes from there. Unless you guys are doing volume, then people can do stuff like order from Alibaba, which is other side of the world's like Amazon. People order like container trucks. They'll order like 20 houses worth of carpet, 20 houses worth of paint, and they'll store it. But if you get to that level, you want to start thinking about that. Speed of the project is important. How fast they get it done obviously impacts you. Permitting process, make sure to pull permits, guys. Just do it. It's going to help you sell the property. It will actually make you more money and it'll avoid you a lot of headaches. People want to cut corners and not pull permits. Never cut corners and always pull permits, guys. I promise you, it's going to make you more money and you're going to sleep well at night. Pay well on time. If you pay your contractors on time, they'll want to show up on time. If you don't pay them well, they're not going to do a good job for you. So you always want to pay them on time. And then you want to think about what a contractor jump is. How do you lose good contractors? You don't have another project ready for them. So if I have a house and these contractors I've worked hard to find and it's coming to the end and I don't have another house for them, well, what does that mean for them? They're waiting on me. But let's say I make them wait for too long and Tharmela pops up, another investor, because she drove by one of my houses, saw they work and said, this looks good. Do you want to come do my house? And then she hires them and then they get on her house. And then she has another house ready for them right when they get off that one. So they jump to the next one. They jump to the next one. They jump to the next one. So your profit center, guys, for both your contractors and your lenders, think about how to jump them from project to project to project. Because a lender, if their money's out of play, they're not making interest on it. If contractors are not in a house, they're not making money. So I'm always trying to line up, looking forward 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks down the future to look at closing time horizons, where I can take this crew off and move them directly to them. Because if it takes 1 day, 5 days, 10 days, 20 days before the next house, you're losing money and they're losing money. Okay. And that's how you can lose great lenders and partners. And then just go into referrals, local REI clubs and things like that are going to be where you're going to get those. And then we'll just end it up with exiting the deal, guys. You just got to decide what you want to do with it. If you're going to rent it, you're not going to put as much money into it. Obviously, if you're going to sell it, put a little bit more into it. Lease option, if you guys can do that in your market, you need to decide what you're going to do. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to over repair it if they're going to come in and lease option it. Sell traditionally. You need to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to stage the property? Down there at the bottom, staging versus non-staging. Staging versus staging is what I put. I realize I put that in the wrong, but you guys can see you need to decide how you're going to sell the property. If you're going to sell it, are you going to sell it as an agent yourself? Are you going to use an agent? Or are you going to need to hire another agent? Are you not going to use an agent at all? Are you going to sell it with owner financing? Meaning, are you just going to sell it and carry back the note and be the bank on the property? And then you need to decide, what price points you're going to sell that by running comps and what price point you're going to be in. It's going to dictate how much money you're going to spend to sell the property and how aggressive you're going to put time into it. So you have time and money, and the price point is going to dictate the price point and the profit center I should have put in there are going to dictate the effort that you put into the property to sell it, if that makes sense. Okay. So I know it's a lot. We'll open it for questions. Thermel, if we have, if you still have time here.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody have any questions? And if you're in a place where you cannot mute, leave it in the chat box and we'll happy to share with Connor. Connor, I have a question maybe while others are gathering there. So did you have a moment where you did everything you can to plan it for a fix and flip, and then you ended up actually holding the property? And why did you make that decision?
Yes, kind of. That's how I had to figure out owner financing. So what happened was I bought a property that the numbers looked amazing. And that's why they were amazing, because I did not understand financeability and banks and price points and things like this. So this was a sub 100K property, and banks were not financing properties in the sub 100 point at that moment. It was a 3-level. This was like in 2014, by the way. So it's like properties were a lot lower of value. So this is probably more like a 250K price point. Now, it was a frame house that had 2 additions on it, meaning there was an original house that had an addition. So this is a frame house on pier and beam, and then it had another addition. So it had 3 different kind of levels to it, but like they were all of it off. So there was some structural issues to it. No bank would finance the property, and no other wholesaler would sell it. Or I was a top wholesaler in Dallas at the moment. I couldn't wholesale it. I had the biggest wholesale companies in the marketplace try to wholesale it. I had, Ugly Homes. So I tried New Western and Net Worth, like all the biggest companies. Nobody could sell it without me taking a big loss. And I couldn't take a loss at this time. And I actually have a video on my channel about this. And so what I did was I sold the property on owner financing. So what I did was, instead of selling it to a bank traditional way or to another investor, I sold it to an owner occupant. I owner financed the property. I think it was like $88,000, and I was into it for like 50 something like that. And I created a note. And then what I did is I took that note and I sold that note at a discount to a note buyer, probably for, I think like 92 cents on the dollar. And so I think I sold it. If you go watch on my YouTube channel, there's a video on, it's like one of my first videos on Investor Army. So I created a note, sold a note, and I ended up making like $27,000 profit on that deal. So I couldn't rent it because I couldn't get a loan on it. I couldn't sell it to an owner-occupant traditional buyer because they couldn't get a loan on it themselves. I couldn't sell it to another investor because they knew that they were going to have the same problem I had. Nobody wanted to, and they weren't going to step into my position, and no other wholesale company with bigger buyers list could sell it. So almost every other person that was going to do that deal at that moment, if they just didn't have they didn't figure out all these other strategies. I mean, like how we're talking about the last part, exit strategies. They didn't know how to do the different strategies. They would have had to take a loss. Like if I had wholesaled it, I think I was going to lose like $7,000, I think, to my best offer. Instead, I made a difference of $35,000, all because of creative financing. And this is why the banks are the biggest building in every town, because they play with interest rates. If you play with interest rates, you'll be a wealthy person. That's all you need to know. If you understand interest rates and how to play with them and manipulate them, you create money out of thin air. That property, that person, that homeowner, she could have never gotten a property in her entire life. So I helped her become a homeowner. So I helped the community. She could never have the property, and probably wasn't a bad property. It was a weird 1920 frame house, lake house. Like it was by the lake, if that makes sense. So it's just kind of a unique property. And then I made a bunch of money. So that was one of them. I've lost money on flips. I never financed that, kept them. And so the ones that I kind of got in that spot, the price points were too high that if I did finance out, they wouldn't cash flow. So that's another reason you want to kind of stay in some lower price points when you first start flipping houses, because if you get in trouble, at least if you finance out, you can keep the property and ride out the storm in a bad market and wait for the market to turn around. But if you buy in like you're flipping 5, 6, 7, 800K price points and up, even if you were to finance out, you're going to have a hard time finding a tenant at that price point, and it's not going to cash flow. So it's going to be net negative. But sometimes people definitely do that. It's just called being a forced landlord. It's not a problem. I mean, it's better. You need to decide at that moment, does it make sense do you want to keep this property? Because you may not even want that property at that moment, just for the stress and emotion, just to get away from you. If that makes you maybe so fed up with it, because if you finance out, it's going to be in your life for a long time. So you could sell it and just say, well, I could eat the cost of 15K, or I could finance this property out and keep it, and I may only make $50 cash flow a month, but I'm not going to have to eat the 15K. And so a lot of that's going to come down to your personal situation in business. Can you eat a loss and it's not going to hurt you? Like right now in my business, I could eat a 15K loss and it wouldn't be a problem. When I was starting out in business, I couldn't eat a $1,000 loss. It would have, like that. It was that big of a difference, right? So it's a lot of it's going to be where you are personally in the deal. But it happens quite often that people finance out of bad flips to avoid taking a big cash loss at that moment. Does that make sense? But
yeah. No, it makes sense. And I wanted to hear from your perspective of why you would keep it versus sell it. But I guess it really depends on the situation too. Sometimes if you're in a bad deal, that's one thing. But what if it cash flows and maybe you're okay, willing to keep it in project, have somebody property manage?
I mean, if it cash flows, like it's no problem. Like if it cash flows, it's just a rental property if you can get the loan on it. But the problem is many of the people, like most people, would not be financeable in that spot, if that makes sense. They're not going to be able to keep the property. And a lot of people that are using hard money lenders and private money lenders and interest only asset-based loan lenders, they're doing it because they can't get traditional loans, if that makes sense. And so if they can keep it, go ahead and keep it. It's not a big deal. So like, that's why you want to, like, if you look at exit strategy, you got wholesaling, flipping, landlording, lease options, owner financing, step 2, all these different things. If you have equity in the deal, you can do anything you want with it. You can wholesale it, you can flip it, you can keep it. But if you don't have equity in the deal, there's not many things you can do with it, right? So like, if you buy the deal right in the first place, you should be able to flip it or keep it. And if you keep it, you have an equity position that cash flows. And if you sell it, you get a big check. And then it's just a balance between active to passive and equity models. Meaning, I used to teach people flip a house, keep a house. With us and the agents here at the Wolfpack organization, what we do is sell a house at an agent, meaning provide for your bills, provide for your family, keep the eat money coming in, active income, meaning we got money coming in, selling a house a month, but we're flipping a house a month, but then we also want to build our net worth. We want to grow wealth, and we want to keep these properties. We want to own them for equity ownership appreciation, and we want to keep them for the cash flow. And so, for example, like, this is where you guys need to be disciplined. The biggest mistake all top investors make is they don't keep enough houses. I wholesaled houses and I flipped the houses. And so if I go back to 2014, 15, I don't remember how many I did. There's upwards of close to like 100 wholesale deals maybe. I was making an average of like $7,000 to $20,000 a wholesale deal. Most of them were like 10 to 15K. So I was getting houses for like 50K under contract at the time. I'd wholesale them for 60. That investor would go put 30, 40, 50 grand into them. And they'd have a rental property that's worth like 140 or 150 or something like that, give or take numbers a little bit. Well, if you take 100 wholesale deals, let's say the property was 150K and I took a 10K profit then, was that $1 million, 100 by 10? Now look at 10, 15 years later, every single one of those properties in those neighborhoods I was working on, it makes me sick, I don't even go in there, are worth $250,000 and up. They've almost doubled some of them or over doubled some of them. So waiting 10 years, if I'd figured out how to finance these properties and I waited 10 years, 100 properties on average over $100,000 appreciation is over $10 million in equity appreciation. So I gave up $10 million over a decade because I wanted $1 million today. So be patient. Do you want to become wealthy, or do you want to impress your friends because you can pay for a bottle of wine tonight? Or do you want a nicer car today? Do you want 10 Lamborghinis tomorrow or 1 Lamborghini today to impress people that you have to make a payment on? Or do you want to buy them cash tomorrow? So the difference is people that have massive wealth versus people that pretend to be wealthy. And it's very known out there because wealthy people buy assets with their money. They don't buy things, if that makes sense. They buy things that make them money. But I would just keep that mentality is, if you can keep it. So that's what kind of going back, would you keep it? If it cash flows, keep it. If you can get it financed and keep it long term, you should keep as much real estate as you can. If it's leveraged right and it's a decent property and it's not going to have some major structural issues and major issues. But if it's a normal property, a decent property, keep everything and keep as much as you can. That's kind of my take on that.